Hello guys, Tops here. Today on our explain how perks works, resilient. And resilience reduces any negative status effects by one turn. And the negative status effects, something like bleeding or poison, they start at the weakest state from the beginning. So you are way more resistant to negative status effects in the game. So this perk is super special because resilient, it's kind of nice to have, but most of the time I don't have the perk point to spare. And resilient is specifically really good if you want to dodge the Hexen Charm. The problem is it kind of competes with Fortified Mind because the Hexen Charm goes against your resolve. So having like high resolve kind of counters the Hexen Charm as well. But there is a build that I still kind of want to try where you have a dodge tank that goes super fast with adrenaline and taunt and resilient, and you kind of just adrenaline taunt the Hexen and then you just tank the charm, so your other brothers don't get charmed and you kind of fuck up the Hexens. So it's specifically, I think the only good use case is specifically anti-hex and on nimble dodge tanks. All right, let's check out Turtle's guide. Yeah, he says it's good versus hex. The thing why I never picked this is because most of the time I prefer Battleforge over nimble, and basically all of my frontliners who are getting hit are Battleforge. And if you are Battleforged, you don't have to take care about status effects as much. Like if you get staggered, minus 50 initiative, who cares? You don't have initiative anyways. If you get dazed, it's a little bit annoying, but not too bad. If you get bleeding stacks, really unlikely because you have so much armor. Same with poison. I mean, the goblin poison, yeah, the goblin poison doesn't do a lot of damage. Same with the spider poison. So it's annoying, but not so annoying that I would take a whole perk for it. So resilient is nice to have, but I only use it. The only use case that I ever found was on nimble tanks. Yeah. Again, status effects have the weakest thing and is reduced by one turn. Also, you can completely dodge Hexen Charm if you use the wait command, and then you are resilient. At the end of your turn, you get hex, so the next turn, the hex is gone, basically. All right. And yeah, it's a really high cost anti-hex. Goblin City, multiple shamans, flies are more likely. Yeah, again, like most of the time you get rooted, not flight, but yeah. Anti-bleeding, resilient can help. I would say, especially on nimble tanks or nimble characters, the only thing that really helps versus bleeding is 9 lives, because 9 lives removes all negative status effects, like damage over time, poison and bleeds are removed if you proc 9 lives. So for anti-bleeding or nimble characters, I would rather take 9 lives than resilient. That's another problem. And that's, yeah, dodge support, specifically versus staggered and dazed, which both of them reduce your initiative, especially stuff like snakes who grab you. And then your dodge tank doesn't have dodge anymore, or nomad sand, all that stuff. So if I have a dodge tank, I'm sorry for that. If I have a redodge tank that is highly reliant on dodge and relentless for its survivability, picking up resilient to just keep dodge and relentless, and your initiative at all times at a really high point, that might be the only case where I put up with resilient, and I can show you in game. Yeah, let's look in game at my tanks. At least at my current one. So like again, like resilient is one of these perks. Unless you know exactly what you're doing, you can skip it and you wouldn't miss anything, is my opinion, right? And I think especially if you have something like this guy who is like, you can see he's a bleeder. So that's another point. If you have somebody who is like a bleeder or ailing, so like poison and bleeds will last an additional turn, picking up Resilient to fix the bleed would be a thing, maybe. But again, I would just take 9 lives. So in the case I get the bleeding or poison stack and I would die, my 9 lives proc and I get additional defense and I can just walk away. So I find 9 lives is a better insurance than Resilient, especially for something like bleeding and stuff. Yeah, and this tank, this is like not a super high dodge tank. He doesn't have too much initiative. Yeah, he's loaded with a lot of equipment. So yeah, here I would say a use case for Resilient. So I would maintain high dodge values. But again, I took 9 lives instead and yeah, Fortified Mind. So this is just a nimble tank, right? Not specifically a nimble dodge tank. So this character has really high base defense, as you can see. Has like 41 base defense without a shield. With shield, that base defense significantly increases when we have dodge on top of that and active shield wall. We get to like 100 melee defense or something ridiculous. So this character doesn't rely on dodge basically too much, and so Resilient isn't too bad for him. Too necessary for him, right? So it's a super specific use case, and I would say overall it's one of the weakest defensive perks, and unless you know exactly what you want to do with Resilient, I wouldn't pick it. And I would say just for basic survivability, take 9 lives, you are 10 times better with that, especially on Nimble Bros. Even on Forge Bros, but 9 lives just increases your survivability sometimes to an absurd amount, right? It's just, you get plus 15 defense, plus 15 resolve, so you can just, a lot of the time, just, it gets procced, and then you dodge like 20 hits and walk away. So that's how strong 9 lives is, and that's something that Resilient cannot do, right? And yeah, also like the things, like you can completely avoid Hexen fights if you want to. Like, you don't have to fight Hexen. You don't have to fight Goblin Shamans if you don't want to, is my honest answer. So, like the things that really annoy you and where Resilient would be really strong, these fights can be avoided. But making a specific bro to fuck up Hexens is something that you can do and you might want to try out. But again, outside of that, I don't see a point in this perk, sadly. I would like this perk to get a little bit buffed, but generally it competes with other defensive perks, and basically every other defensive perk is just stronger than Resilient, so I basically never take it. But that doesn't mean it's a bad perk in itself. It just, compared to other perks, they just offer too much. Alright guys, this is it for this video, and thank you guys so much for watching. I will link the Turtles Battle Brother guides down below, best guide for Battle Bros, and have a nice day guys. Bye bye.